Good morning, friends. It's Russ here from Daisy Lever Gun Fun. Out here in the workshop, and today we're going to talk briefly about forearms, specifically forearms that I find on the wide frame daisies. You know, those 95, 96s, 99s, 499s, etc., etc. So, what I want to talk about is adapting one forearm to another. Not all the guns mount these forearms the same way. In fact, what I've found is some of them don't even act the same whenever you look at them because of diameters. If you take a gun, like this is your typical 96, okay? It's, well, it's not typical in that the rear sight's broken off of it, but this is how they're constructed. You've got this forearm with a pin in here that is going to hold it onto a hook that's welded to the bottom of the front of the barrel shroud, and it will go into the receiver. Doesn't matter about the back end for this particular video, but it does matter about the shoulders on here and the fact that these guns use the consistent diameter barrel shrouds, not the step downs like in the newer ones, like in those 99Bs and so forth. So this is what you're going to find on a 96. Now 96 also typically is going to have this curved cocking lever and the curved wrist on the back of a Monte Carlo style stock. So this is what you're going to find. What you find typically on many of the 95s, hold on a second, is something like this. Here's a 95, okay? Same diameter, same size on the barrel, similar to what you have on the receiver, but if you'll notice there is a straight lever, straight wrist for the stock. It's actually a little shorter stock and it doesn't have the Monte Carlo hump on it. And on a lot of these, what you're going to find is this plastic forearm style. Many of them have a problem right up in here where the plastic doesn't seem to grab the little hook they put in for this one, and it falls down out of the way. This one is in good shape. It still holds itself pretty well. So this is your typical Model 95. Sometimes I like to play around. You all know that. I like to create guns out of different parts, and I look for something. If I can find a part that's going to suit me, I go with that. What I've done recently was taken a 96 receiver. This is a 96 receiver, and don't concern yourself with this just yet. What I've done is shortened it by 3 inches. We've taken your typical Model 25 force-fed shot tube, shortened it. This one I shortened from the front end, re-notched this edge where the little sleeve holds the follower. Oops. And the follower is able to sit in there. When you turn it over, I refashioned a loading hole, goes right in there. You don't hold as many BBs, of course, if you're making this shorter, but now it'll fit the gun better, because on this particular gun, this is a 96 receiver. In fact, it's kind of hard to see, but you might be able to just barely see the number 96 on there. It's shorter by 3 inches than original. I'm going to hold the receivers just about where they should go, and if you look at the front, you've got about a 3-inch difference, which means the original sight is not going to be there. The original shot tube is going to be too long. It's not going to have this loading port on it. So typically, this one is no longer what you're seeing here. This is an adaptation. Where'd I get that sight? I stole that from an old Model 25, and I was able to grind out the welds, and then I silver soldered it back onto the top of the gun. It no longer has a loading hole anywhere. It would have been up here someplace, and so it's going to be more suited for what we're going to do with it. Why in the world is this tube under here? After all, whenever these other forearms are mounted, this tube would get in the way. You can't take one. Here's one from a 99, as a matter of fact. And it gets in the way. It's not routed for it. Here's a plastic one from a 95. Also, no way that's going to work. I mounted this in here intentionally. What I used is a high grab type of an epoxy. You could do a tack weld, or you could do some silver solder on a steel tube and put it under here. But the reason this is here is so it simulates what you would find on a Red Ryder type gun. The reason I did that is because I wanted to mount a Red Ryder forearm on the bottom of this 96 receiver. Everything was looking pretty good until I took a Red Ryder forearm, tried to slide it into the receiver opening, and oops, doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. What I found is that the width, the overall width on this forearm is just about the same as the overall width of the steel on this receiver. It's not going to fit because it is too big. And right then I thought, well, I better stick to using a wide frame Daisy forearm because they're made for these receivers. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know what? The heck, it's only wood. We can work with this. So I took a Red Ryder forearm. I found out where it was too big width-wise, and until you get down to the curve at the bottom here, I ground down the edges just about 5/8 of an inch in so that we would have enough stock whenever we drilled and put a screw in here, it wasn't going to split the wood. Did that on both sides until I got down to the arc on the bottom. And I wanted something to be able not just to secure the back, but to secure that mounting screw that the Red Ryder uses underneath the forearm. Thereby, this tube is just the right size. Now, I could have extended it out further and actually filled in that hole in the front. But what I did with this one was I left it where it was. Not the first time Daisy's ever used a forearm of this style without having a fake magazine tube. You slide that in. Now, whenever I drill and tap that, it's going to go right in and hold that. And I have, if you hold this up tight, I have the steel tube inside of there where I can put in that little mounting screw. So even without using the band on the front, this is going to look a lot better with a stock on the back. Probably doesn't surprise you that I'm not going to use a Model 96 stock either. I wanted it to be a little more streamlined, a little more simplistic in its looks, so I went with a 95 stock. It will fit up here. What I needed to do was, for the age of this one, I had to drill a hole and put in a spring. I have several springs that I can sit in there for the return spring on the trigger. And to dress it up a little bit, I put on a metal butt plate. It's supposed to look old, it's supposed to look a little junky, and it still does. There are a few dents in it, some scratches. I chemically took off the finish that was on it, and I did some sanding, did some restaining, and this is what it's going to look like because it's supposed to have some age to it. Doesn't look exactly brand new, and that's okay. So, that's today's talk about forearms. You don't always have to have the right forearm if you don't mind doing a little fitting, a little sizing. And to tell you the truth, some of these wide frame Daisy forearms, other than those plastic ones for the 95, some of those are getting a little more scarce. Finding stocks for these are sometimes getting a little more scarce. Now, you can build stocks, and I think what I'm going to do is a project where, believe it or not, even though this is a wide frame, I'm going to try to adapt a Red Ryder stock to a wide frame. And we'll see how that turns out. Maybe I'll do a video on that one also. Okay, guys, this is Russ. Good talking to you. We'll see you again next time, and have a great day.